Tyler Stovall introduces many famous characters throughout his books, such as W.E.B. Du Bois. He went to Paris in the early 19th century and was strongly against colonism. He was a strong advocate for freeing African colonies from European powers and even wrote about it in several books and pamphlets. Du Bois also took hundreds of photos of African American families and communities that were displayed in French exhibits. He did this to display the humanism and success of African American people and their culture. He also helped start the NAACP to help change the world's view of African Americans. Henry O. Tanner worked closely with W.E.B. Du Bois, and they were very similar. They both used Paris to get away from racism in America and changed many viewpoints towards people of color through their literature and galleries. Due to the colorblindness viewpoint of the Parisians and recognition Tanner got for his work, he decided to live in Paris for the rest of his life. Some of his most famous paintings were The Banjo Lesson and The Thankful Poor. Many of his paintings were biblical in nature, and during this time, the white American singer named Jesse Olsen became famous for marrying him. This was skeptical at the time and was heavily scrutinized by the media and others throughout the world. Shortly after, the Harlem Hellfighters were an all-black infantry unit that served in World War I under the French Army because the American Army basically threw them out because of their racial viewpoints of African Americans. Most African Americans that served under the United States were mainly laborers because the white superiors did not believe they could be true soldiers. The Hellfighters proved that racist viewpoints to be wrong. These soldiers were one of the most decorated units in all of World War I. One of the most famous battles was when two of the Hellfighters were surrounded, and a soldier named Roberts was injured during it. The other soldier, Henry Johnson, bravely fought off several German soldiers with a jammed gun, and he sent them screaming away in fear. The French awarded Johnson the Croix de Guerre, which is the highest recognition a soldier can obtain in France. James Europe led the Harlem Hellfighters and was not only famous for being the first African American officer to fight in the war, but he also led the Harlem Hellfighters jazz band, which kicked off the Harlem in Montmartre. This began the jazz age in Paris and brought a black community with it. James Europe even toured all throughout Europe and won their hearts through the music of jazz. During the peak of the jazz period, a young dancer's career took off. Her name was Josephine Baker, and she piqued curiosity of the Parisians through her new and exciting expression of dance. She was one of the, if not the most famous diva of her time period. She owned the spotlight and did other things that other dancers did not, such as dancing in the nude. Baker also displayed primitivism in her dances. This is a display of what many white people thought of African Americans during this time period. People depicted African Americans as unsophisticated and simple. Baker expressed this throughout her performances. She was also famous for marrying Pepito, which helped further her career by making her a movie star. She also performed at many famous clubs such as Ches Bricktops. This was owned by Ada Bricktop Smith, who was first a singer at the La Grand Duke before owning her own nightclub. She helped further the jazz age and had many stars constantly go to her clubs, such as Duke Ellington and the Prince of Wales. Bricktop and Baker became good friends throughout their professional career during the jazz age. And during the jazz age, a famous art form also blew up called surrealism. Andre Breton marked his definitive break with Dada, which transformed into surrealism. Surrealism expressed imagination, defiance, and a desire for revolution, as well as allowing many African Americans to make a career in art. And this art form eventually developed into Cubism. Thank you.